you believe what's happening in Chicago? Now, I love Chicago. I mean, I have an affection for most big cities in America. I've been to all of them, all 50 states, all major cities. Chicago is a unique place because it is an immigrant city like New York. People work very hard, generally speaking. They're nicer than New Yorkers are and Bostonians. A little crusty here on the East Coast, except when you get south of the Mason-Dixon line, it gets nicer down there. But I always like going to Chicago. But I knew for years that city was spiraling downward because of the corrupt politicians and the Democratic machine. It's almost like New York and California, and the machine controls who runs, who gets elected, and the Republican Party is just nowhere. So what we are seeing is the destruction of Chicago. Okay. Last Sunday, a man, 20-year-old Latrell Allen, was apparently carrying a gun, allegedly carrying a gun. The police were informed, and with all the murders and shootings in Chicago, they respond to those calls of firearms. Mr. Allen, according to the cops, fled and then shot at police. Police showed the public the gun. It was shot. Bullets did come out of it, ballistic show. And whether or not it was Allen's, well, he was the only guy there. So the gun was found on the ground after Allen was shot by the police. He was not killed. All right. Now, Allen's got a record. Some say he's a gang member. I haven't been able to confirm that. And there is no question that if an alleged criminal shoots at a law enforcement officer, that officer has the right to shoot back. Not Chicago. No. Okay. So riots break out. Looting breaks out. You saw the pictures. We'll run a few more now. $60 million in damage on Sunday. $60 million. And you can see these people are breaking into stores. They're looting. This is not the poor neighborhood. This is the Miracle Mile, the so-called Miracle Mile. All right? On the lake in Chicago. $60 million in damage. 13 police officers injured. 100 people arrested. Even the far, far, far left mayor of Chicago, Lori Lightfoot, was outraged. Go.
Let's be clear. We are coming for you. We are already at work on finding you, and we intend to hold you accountable for your actions. I don't care. I do not care whatever justification was given for this. There is no justification for criminal behavior ever.
All right. I don't believe that looters are going to be held accountable. If they are, I'll be very, very surprised. So what they need is to arrest 100 of them and perp walk them. Then I'll believe you. But is that going to happen? No. Why? Because the Black Lives Matter movement doesn't want it to happen. So after the looting, after the 13 cops are hurt, after all of this, here's what Black Lives Matter Chicago put out a statement. All right, quote, yesterday, Chicago Police Department shot and nearly killed a young black person in Inglewood and then arrested 100 protesters downtown for expressing their righteous anger. As we post a statement, CPD, Chicago Police Department, continues to patrol and terrorize black communities. Mayor Lightfoot continues to side with capital and private property over the black people of Chicago, unquote. Did you get the private property and capital? This is from the communist group, the Marxist group, Black Lives Matter. Now, the person who runs this in Chicago is named Aislinn Pulley. All right? She is also the co-executive director of the Chicago Torture Justice Center. All right? That is an organization that seeks to address, quote, the traumas of police violence and institutional racism through access to healing and wellness services, unquote. Okay, fine. So we know what this is, all right? This is another attempt by the Black Lives Matter movement to justify criminal conduct. There's no doubt about it, no two sides to the story. So all the corporations that are donating millions to the Black Lives Matter movement, they are actively involved in attacking the police and businesses. So if you see any company, any corporation, anything like that, that's doing that, and tomorrow on this program we'll list the ones that we know of, we'll tell you who they are. You know, you make your own decision. I'm not a boycott guy. I'm not a cancel culture guy. But I'm not giving them a penny. Ever. Because this is anarchy, this is violence, this is dangerous. Now, in Chicago on Lakeshore Drive, that's the main drive through the affluent area and where all the stores are, they can't allow people there. This movement, these criminals, and if you aid and abet criminality, you're a criminal. If you help someone kill someone or steal or loot, you're a criminal. You can be charged. So all of this goes back to what I've been telling you and telling you and telling you. It's had nothing to do about racial justice, social justice, George Floyd, nothing. This is a violent attempt to overthrow city, state, and the federal government. That's what it is. Now, Attorney General Barr knows what it is, and here's what he said.
They are a revolutionary group that is interested in some form of socialism, communism. They're essentially Bolsheviks. Their tactics are fascistic.
Okay, so for saying that on MSNBC, which actively encourages the sedition we are seeing, here's what one of their legal analysts said. Go.
You know, you scratch below the surface of anything Bill Barr says, and the propaganda comes bursting through.
Talking about kettle and black. Oh, my God. I'm not using black as a color. It's the old saying is, you know, pot, kettle, black. Okay. Vanity Fair. Headline, Vanity Fair. I mean, not even a factor in this country, but the headline is, William Barr, of all people, accuses Black Lives Matter protesters of being fascistic. Oh, that's right, Vanity Fair. That's right. They're not. Oh, no. It's unbelievable. Washington Post. You want it? Here's part of their article written by Jacqueline Pizer. The Washington Post, again, they're enabling all of this. Here's the quote. Barr's comments in the hour-long interview on Fox News represent some of his harshest critiques yet of the protest movement, which he equated with Antifa and compared to guerrilla warfare, and of the Democratic politicians who have accused the Attorney General of subverting the Justice Department to do President Trump's bidding. Got to throw that in there, Jacqueline. Can't just report on what the Attorney General says. No, you got to put in the Democratic politicians say Barr is a lackey. Got it in a hard news story, and it's not analysis. Okay. To my friends in Illinois and Chicago, I'm very sorry. I wish I was there to help you. But if you don't get these people out of office, and that includes the governor of Illinois, Pritzker, if you don't do it, this is just going to get worse. All right, ACLU wants the government to disband Homeland Security. I mean, this is just a joke. The ACLU is an open border group. It has accepted millions of dollars from George Soros, who is an open border guy. And all they do is say, we don't want Homeland Security, we don't want border fence, we don't want agents down there, we want everyone to come in here. This is what the ACLU is. All right, now tomorrow on this program, I'm going to run down all of the people, name all of the names of the organizations that I believe are putting you in danger. All right? This is a special No Spin News tomorrow. Okay. Now, the ACLU is asking going to court, to block a $3.6 billion federal funding, okay, that limits people from coming across the border. They're actually suing not to stop illegal immigrants from coming here. That's the ACLU. All right? All right, we're in a recession. Everybody knows it. Millions of Americans have lost their jobs, and now's the time to evaluate your financial portfolio. And I recommend you hold some gold and silver, and the company that I use is American Hartford Gold Group. I've been with them for years. They sell physical gold and silver. You can hold it, or they'll deliver it to your IRA. Gold is up more than 30% since I started telling you about the American Hartford Gold Group. So please call them now, tell them Bill sent you, and they'll give you $1,500 of free silver on your first order. The number is 877-444-GOLD, 877-444-GOLD, or text GOLD to 65532. So I'm going to bring a guy who, interesting guy. Rob Smith is his name. He's got a book, Always a Soldier, Service Sacrifice, coming out as America's favorite black gay Republican. I didn't know, Mr. Smith, that you were America's favorite, but I'll take your word for it. I read your book last night, and there are a number of things that I find interesting. Number one, I just want to tell everybody that at 17 years old, Mr. Smith enlisted in the Army. He had a tough time in basic, but stuck it out. He saw combat in Iraq. All right, spent 4 years in the Army, came out, went to college. Army paid for it. Now you, according to your book, and you correct me if I've got it wrong, but I did read it. I'm one of the few interviewers that, because most of them are lazy, you know that, but I read it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You had a childhood that had very little parental support. You raised in Akron, Ohio, pretty much on your own at a very early age, confused kid, all right? And that story is common in African-American precincts. Your upbringing was what millions of other African-American kids have. Isn't that the root of a lot of the social problems in America?
Bill, it really is. The reason why I talk so much in the book about the fact that I didn't have a father growing up in the home, really. My father wasn't around when I was a teenager. The fact that I went to failing public schools in Akron, Ohio. The reason I talk about a lot of this stuff, and particularly why I came around to becoming a Republican and being in the conservative movement, is because there are so many African Americans who really do have that experience. And I want people to know that there is a different path. There is a different way to go than to just saying, I hate America. Racism is the problem. White people are the problem. All of that other crap that we hear from the left all the time. And a lot of the stuff that we'll be hearing every night this week from the DNC. So that is why I felt that it was so important to include that stuff in the book.
If you were a speaker at the DNC convention this week and said just what you said, you'd be booed. A lot of African Americans would not, even though you went through it, would not listen to you. Why is that?
Well, they wouldn't listen to me because the African American community has been so used by the left in the way that you cannot talk about these issues like fatherlessness. You cannot talk about these issues like culture. You cannot talk about these issues like the fact that the vast majority of African Americans are killed by other African Americans. We have a body count every weekend in Chicago that makes everything else, including these African American men that have been shot by police officers, it dwarfs that. You know what I mean? So you can't talk about these things because you are told that you're not supposed to say that in spaces where white people can hear, because if white people can hear it, then all of a sudden, we're talking out of school. This is the kitchen table talk. And, Bill, I get into the book later on when I talk about the more political stuff. And I talk about how the Democrats and the left use African-American entertainers, rappers, athletes, ball players to push this idea that African-Americans are so oppressed in this country, but yet you have multimillionaires that are living the American dream, pushing this idea that Black people are oppressed in America. It just doesn't make sense. And I would be booed if I said these things because it goes against the narrative. It's really unfortunate.
All right, we're having a little trouble with your feed, but let me see if I can get one more question and we'll get Rod back. Your turning point in your life was in basic training when a sergeant, drill sergeant, gave you an opportunity to quit. You're having a lot of trouble. 90% of kids in your position, 17 years old, would have quit. You didn't quit. And therefore, your life dramatically changed for the better because the Army gave you structure. That's how I read it.
Yes.
Why didn't you quit?
I didn't quit, Bill, because I wasn't even sure if I believed in myself at that moment, but I knew that my drill sergeant was giving an opportunity and that he believed in me. And I knew that I could really stick it out. And one of the biggest gifts that I've ever gotten in my life from the United States military is that focus, is that courage, is that discipline that I got from basic training and that I got from military service. And this is the same focus and discipline that I take to every single aspect of my life. And I speak all the time about how much I love my military service and about how, by the way, military service is open to the vast majority of people who want to take that opportunity to serve the country in that way.
Always been that way.
And I've had people tell me that you did it because you're special. Well, I can't do that. And I say, well, why not? Why can't you do that?
And you weren't that special. You were an overweight kid with no support system who went in and toughed it out. I mean, it wasn't like you were floating in there, the son of a colonel. I mean, you were on your own, and that's what really impressed me about the book, Rob. It's called Always a Soldier, Service, Sacrifice, coming out as America's favorite Black gay Republican. And I want everybody to check it out. And it's a pleasure to talk with you, Rob. We'll have you back, okay?
Thank you so much, Bill. Have a good one.
All right. Cheers. After playing sports for decades, I have some pain. I'm an old guy, all right? So I talked with Dr. McQuillan from Omega XL. She said, whether it's painful back, knees, neck, shoulders, the underlying cause is likely inflammation. I believe that. Backed by 35 years of clinical research, Omega XL attacks the inflammation that's causing my pain. The doctor said something else very interesting, quote, I can't write any prescription that comes close to Omega XL. Order Omega XL and get a second bottle free. Visit OmegaXL.com. That's easy. /no spin. OmegaXL.com /no spin or call 1-800-844-4888. Now, you've heard me talk about white privilege, and this is going to lead into our segment on the Marxist Black Lives Matter Global Foundation. So white privilege, I have never bought into. All right, I've always told you years, it's not true. What is true is economic privilege. And there's no doubt about that. If you have money or your family has money or you inherit money, you have privilege attached to that asset. It's all about money, not skin color. I've always said that it is harder for an African American to pursue happiness in this country than a white American. That is true, because there are bigots that play the skin color game. It doesn't matter they're on all sides because the whites are the majority. So here on Long Island, where I lived for many, many years, if you were a upwardly mobile black family, there were certain neighborhoods you couldn't buy into. All right, I was wrong. And the reason was, as again I write in the United States of Trump, because his father, Trump's father, was involved with this, economic. That they thought if black families moved into certain neighborhoods, property values would go down. Okay? So there is economic privilege, and it's a corrupter. How many rich people do you know? I know a lot. And some of them I'd like to slap upside the head because they're so arrogant. Why are you arrogant? Because you have money? You know it. It exists. Okay? But white skin color privilege is a myth. Enter 19-year-old Ray Aurora. This kid's a genius. He lives in Vancouver, Canada, and he's a writer. He sells his articles to a number of publications. So he researched white privilege. Ready? And again, it's always good to watch this broadcast with a pen and paper. He found out 4 things that just blow the white privilege theory out of the water. Number 1, according to statistics from the U.S. Census Bureau, several minority groups in America out-earn white people. They earn more money than white people. These are the groups. Ready? Pakistani Americans, Lebanese Americans, South African Americans, Filipino Americans, Sri Lankan Americans, and Iranian Americans. And the number 1 group in the United States for earnings, Indians. They earn more money than anyone else. None of those groups, except for South Africa, are white-based. None of them. Second, black immigrant groups have a median household income above the American average. Who are black immigrant groups? Nigerians, Barbadians, Ghanaians, Trinidadians. All have higher incomes than the average American. And because whites are more than blacks and Hispanics, that's the factor. Third, Nigerian Americans are one of the most educated groups in America, according to a study by Rice University. They only make up 1% of African Americans, Nigerians, 1%. Yet they are represented at the Harvard Business School at a rate of 25% of black students. So no wonder they are out earning whites, Nigerian Americans. I didn't know any of this, and I know you didn't know any of it. And thanks to Ray Aurora, we now know it. And finally, 16 million white Americans, almost twice as many as black Americans, live in poverty. Now, that's a little skewed because black Americans are 13% of the population, and whites are 50-something, close to 60%. It's a little skewed, but it goes against, if you're white, you have privilege. Okay? That's what it goes against. So the white privilege argument, this is why I'm even bothering with it. Kids hear this, black kids, and it builds in to their thinking process. They're immature, okay? But so are most adults, that they're victims. Because whites have privilege, they, the black kids, don't have privilege, and they can't succeed. They're victims of a biased system. And that creates grievance. Oh, I flunked because I'm black. Oh, you didn't hire me because I'm black. Oh, you were rude to me because I'm black. And you have white privilege. Nobody has done this to me because they're afraid of me. But if anybody ever said to me, hey, O'Reilly, check your privilege, the mature O'Reilly would say, hey, why don't you take your stupid theory and whatever. I probably wouldn't use a euphemism, but I would state my objection. I grew up in Levittown, New York, as many of you know. you couldn't get more humble beginnings than that? I guess you could, but it would be hard. Okay, I didn't have any money, and nobody in the neighborhood had any money. That's why they were living in Levittown. My father bought the house for $8,000 in 1951. So this white privilege nonsense is corrosive to the country because it creates another generation of victims. The blacks grow up, not all of them, certainly not Nigerians, and they say, I can't make it. Why should I even try? Now, part of the dissemination of black propaganda or propaganda directed toward blacks is the Black Lives Matter Global Foundation. So in Milwaukee, the head of the crew there, Patrick Benjamin, recently wrote an article, June 21st. It said, "Dear white people, if you have ever said any of these things, then you are part of the problem." And he lists the most absurd stuff, like everyone struggles, being white has never been one of those struggles, being poor is a struggle. It's just garbage. The article is just garbage. But the basic premise is that white people are oppressive. And that's what the Black Lives Matter Global Foundation sells. Skin color, Caucasian, oppressive. One final note. Skin color should not be in any debate. And it is in the Washington Redskins, and we'll get to that in a little while. Should not be in any debate. Skin color does not matter. Martin Luther King Jr. said it best. It's the content of your character. Okay? This right here, it doesn't matter. And if you inject skin color in any way, shape, or form into the debate, you're going to be marked, number one, ostracized, and you'll lose the debate. You've got to really cut through this and get into education, get into the system in America that requires competition and how to compete. Let's bring in Scott Walker. He is the president of the Capital Research Center in Washington, D.C. And he has his group, the Capital Research Center, has been investigating the Black Lives Matter Global Foundation, which is different from the slogan. So the slogan Black Lives Matter doesn't have anything to do with what Mr. Walter and me, what we are investigating. It is the organization. So last week, the CRC uncovered Susan Rosenberg's ties to a group called Thousand Currents. I'm not going to go over all investigations that we've done, but just suffice to say that the Black Lives Matter Global Foundation runs money through Thousand Currents, based in Oakland, California. And this Susan Rosenberg is a co-chairwoman of that group. And she is a convicted terrorist, a violent woman who served hard time in a federal penitentiary. I didn't know that, but Mr. Walter and his crew found that out. He joins us now from Washington. When you ran that article, and I saw it on Real Clear Politics, what kind of reaction did you and your organization get, Mr. Walter?
Well, we got a very nice reaction from conservatives who were shocked and appalled to hear about Ms. Rosenberg's background. We got deafening silence from the Washington Post, the New York Times, all the television networks, etc. Although I should say Tucker has mentioned it, though. That'd be the one exception.
Were you invited on any programs?
Nope, not to discuss Ms. Rosenberg. Mm-mm.
Were you invited on any programs to discuss the Black Lives Matter Global Foundation?
Nope.
Outside of us, did you see any other original reporting on the Black Lives Matter Global Foundation?
Maybe an occasional detail added here and there, again, only by conservative outlets, though, online.
Okay. So do you believe that the corporate media, Disney, AT&T, Comcast, these people, they don't want Americans to know what BLM Global Foundation is? Do you believe that?
I do believe that, especially in the case of Disney, who's going to have a big Colin Kaepernick show, right?
Well, they've offered him a first look. But I don't even think Colin Kaepernick knows what the Black Lives Matter Global Foundation is. I don't think all these people running around under this banner know anything about the 3 Marxist women who founded it. But I could be wrong. Maybe they do and they don't care.
I'm sure there's more ignorance than knowledge, but you're right. They wouldn't care that much. It seems to be very hard to embarrass the left, especially when they get to keep so many things silent.
All right. Now, the big news organizations, they're going to black out. And I think I can use that word, blackout, but CNN may have it on their list. They're going to not tell the American public this is a Marxist organization that seeks to overthrow the federal government and impose communism. And the 3 women admit it, do they not? The 3 founders.
They are, in their own words, trained Marxists. And certainly Ms. Rosenberg, the co-chairman of that pass-through that you mentioned, Thousand Currents, where the money flows through, the only repentance she had for all of her violent terrorism in the 70s, 80s, her one regret was she did not shoot back against the cops.
She wanted more violence against the police. Do you believe that if this were a front page story on the Washington Post and that ABC News and CBS and NBC picked it up and led with it on their nightly newscasts and said, you know, you really should know that this Black Lives Matter Global Foundation, which drives the Black Lives Matter protests, because it does, they're Marxists and they want to overthrow the government. Do you think that Americans would care?
Sure, the average American, of course, is appalled by that kind of radicalism, and especially, you know, extremism is really extremist when it's violent.
When you reported the link between this violent convicted terrorist, Rosenberg, and Black Lives Matter Global Foundation, you would think that that would be, all right, a story that get picked up. Did you send it to the AP? Did you send your stuff out?
Oh, yes. No, we've sent it out. And in fact, our influencewatch.org website, which is sort of Wikipedia of the left, for many of these groups, we're on the first page of Google results. They don't, you know, they can ignore us. They can just go to Google and find the same info from us.
So it is on social media, but it isn't in the corporate media. Final question calls for an opinion on your part. Why would Disney and Comcast and AT&T, which runs CNN, why would they want to promote communism, to promote people who would seize their assets, who would destroy their corporations? Why would they want to promote them?
Well, I think it's a combination of guilt, because to the extent they think about this, they feel guilt-ridden and paralyzed. And then also it's the fruit of all these decades of horrible education that we've given people. I mean, if you're a 30-something powerful executive somewhere, you're brainwashed almost certainly from the education you got.
So you don't see that as a threat, the Marxists?
You think that's just you think it's reality. Oh, well, of course, this is the way the world works. We all know that. And I kind of feel bad because, gosh, I have an awfully nice place in Greenwich, Connecticut, where I commute down to Manhattan to my offices.
All right. I don't know. You know, there's something corrupt, obviously, in the press. It's at the most corrupt point in our history, in my opinion. But, Mr. Walter, we hope you keep investigating. And we really appreciate the good work you have done so far. Thanks for appearing tonight.
Thanks so much, Bill.
Okay. If you are over the age of 50, I have an important message for you. There's a true alternative to AARP, the liberal retirement group that lobbies in favor of progressive policies. For less than $20 a year, an AMAC membership gives you members-only pricing on car insurance, roadside assistance, discounts on hotels and travel, cell phone plans, discount dental plans, and on and on and on and on. So please join more than 1 million fellow Americans right now at amac.us. And yes, I am a member. Visit amac.us, amac.us. Two members of the squad, the far-left people that follow Congresswoman Cortez, are up for re-election, and both of them might lose. Let's hope they do. First one's Ilhan Omar. You know her. She's had a lot of scandals. She married a political consultant she was accused of having an affair with. She paid his firm almost $1 million. She is as far left as you get. And her primary is August 11th. And her opponent's raising a lot more money than she is. So let's hope that she is history. On August 4th, Rashid Tlaib in Michigan is running against a strong opponent, Brenda Jones, president of the Detroit City Council. And let's hope she loses. The importance of these two is not just getting rid of two very far left socialists, but that would show a backlash against that kind of thinking. I do believe both women will lose. All right? I'm not going to predict it. This is a belief. Of course, I could be wrong. Press layoffs all across the country, all of them in left-wing concerns. Isn't that interesting? So, in the first 6 months of this year, 2020, more than 11,000 newsroom jobs have been lost. 11,000. That's more than ever before. Now, you can blame some of it on COVID, but not really, because COVID has engaged people to find out information, to watch the news. I mean, cable ratings, cable news ratings, believe me, I'm the expert. I was #1 for 16 straight years, as you may know. When Trump leaves the Oval Office, whenever that may be, and when COVID subsides, cable ratings will collapse. Cable TV will collapse, just as other cable is now collapsing, all right? Because people know they're being conned. And while they have to get information now, when Trump and COVID go, you won't have that urgency. Wait till you see what happens. Anyway, McClatchy, The Guardian, BBC, all laying off a lot of people. They're all left-wing. NBC Universal, says it's going to lay off a lot of people. We don't know how many yet, but I can tell you with authority that the journalistic industry in the United States is on the verge of collapse. All right, let's do some mail. Louise, sorry, Bill, I don't agree with you that Republicans should mention black people that have been killed by police. At the convention, they should mention the number of police that were killed by minorities. So you want the Republican Party to alienate the entire African American, Hispanic communities? You think that's a good strategy? I don't. Ted, I see the DNC, Governor Cuomo, called COVID the European virus. What sort of world are we living in now when a politician can twist the truth so much? He's just politically correct. It's a European virus. It's so much. If I were a European, I'd be mad. ZD, concierge member, means ZD has access to me directly. What was Ms. Cortez trying to do? She never mentioned Joe Biden, instead mentioned something about Bernie Sanders' nomination. It wasn't about Bernie Sanders or Joe Biden, it was about her. She's a communist. She wants you to know it. And now you all do. Harold Levine, Blue Ridge, Georgia. Bill, you were being too kind, calling John Kasich delusional. The man is an outright liar. It's so sad to see our government has become so polarized. There seems to be no room for statesmanship anymore. I don't think Governor Kasich is a liar. I know him. I don't think so. I think you are being too harsh. Delusional? Yeah, on this issue. Bob Lamphere, Quaker Hill, Connecticut. Great segment tonight, Mr. O, fact-checking the three DNC speakers, Kasich, Mrs. Obama, and Cuomo. The 25,000 murdered blacks under President Obama is not only chilling, It is eye-opening. Absolutely. It's an amazing statistic. Diana Derbyshire, Columbus Grove, Ohio. Bill, your message is spot on. You explain things so well. I always look forward to seeing the No Spin News. I wish you were our president. Be careful what you wish for, Diana, but thank you very much. Ryan Milich, Duncanville, Texas. I asked my friends why they voted for Barack Obama. They said that they wanted to be part of history and vote for the first African-American president. Do the voters have that same enthusiasm about Kamala Harris? No. I don't believe Kamala Harris is a factor in this election. I could be wrong. Rebecca Ho, Colorado Springs, Colorado. Is the federal government still talking about another stimulus check? Yes. There'll be something that you get in the fall. Bruce Slemmer, Delray Beach, Florida. Today I heard Chris Wallace describe Michelle Obama as the most popular politician. I'm confused. I thought politicians were those elected to public office. No. You can be involved in politics and not be elected. And I agree with Mr. Wallace. If Michelle Obama were heading the Democratic ticket instead of Joe Biden, I don't think it'd be close. Again, I could be wrong, but boy, she has a following. Dolores, Bill, Killing Jesus was the best book you have written. It taught me the real reason why Jesus was killed. Forever invaluable to me. Thank you. You know, with Killing Crazy Horse coming out on September 8th, and again, please pre-order it, get it first. All other 8 Killing books will be back in play, okay? And also The United States of Trump, which will be out in paperback very soon. All of my books will be front and center again. But Killing Jesus was the most difficult book that Martin Dugard and I had to write because the research was so difficult. It's a history book. Now, Killing Crazy Horse, I'm going to tell you about it in about 10 days. And I'm tired of the lies being told about my country in the historical realm. I am tired of that. And you read Killing Crazy Horse, The Merciless Indian Wars in America, every word of it is true. And you will know how your country is forged and be able to combat all that anti-American propaganda. It's not a perfect nation, but there are explanations about why things happen. Killing Crazy Horse out September 8th. Now, if you become a premium member on BillO'Reilly.com, you get it free. Become a lifetime premium or concierge member, you get all 9 books, all 9 Killing books free. Remember, the most successful book series in history, pardon the pun. You'll never hear that in the media. 17 million copies in print. And there's a reason. Killing Crazy Horse. Word of the day, do not be vacuous when writing to me, Bill at BillO'Reilly.com. I'm back in a moment with 2 books that you are going to want to hear about. All right, here's my final thought of the day. We have, I think, the smartest audience on the planet watching us on the First TV, BillO'Reilly.com, all the other things that are carrying us now. This is a book written by a factor. He was a factor viewer. Now he's a BillO'Reilly.com viewer. Ryan's story. All right, a father's hard-earned lessons about cyberbullying and suicide. Ryan's story. Now, I'm sure you know kids who are troubled. You got to get them this. This is a self-published book, and that's why I'm telling you about it. I'm going to give you an email address. John Halligan is the co-author. John Halligan, good Irishman. Halligan, John Halligan, one word, at ryansstory.org. This is just vital stuff. All right? This guy lost his son. And we need to have an awareness of this kind of stuff with internet, all of that. It's really, really important. So it's Ryan's story. Once again, if you want to get information about the book, John Halligan at ryansstory.org. Second book. It's written by a retired colonel, Brandon Jaeger, okay? The Decline of Patriotism, the Death of Nations, and How We Might Be Saved. The Citizen Forge. Very interesting book. Self-published by another guy who watches us. Okay, so here's the address. B. Jaeger, Jaeger, B. Jaeger, one word, at thecitizenforgeproject.com. The Citizen Forge, F-O-R-G-E, project.com, one word. All right? So these are people who watch us every night who are doing something. They're self-publishing, and I wanted to bring both of those books to your attention. And I hope you will check out the websites, and I think both of them will be very useful to you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.